Part 35. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 341. Chapter 341 Forced Kiss 2. You can't be discovered by him, otherwise it will be difficult to deal with. Qian Yuman was too frightened to come out, so she hid in a corner. Occasionally she cautiously poked her head out to see if Tang Feishan had left. Qian Yuman felt sad at the moment. Even if she couldn't go to the sea to play because of her pregnancy, now she had to avoid Tang Feishan and couldn't even play in the cruise ship area. Seeing the people around her drinking and cheering, she felt so sad and angry because she, who loved to drink, refused to drink alcohol because she was pregnant. Having a good vacation, why did it become like this? She really wanted to cry. Is it the only way to avoid meeting acquaintances by hiding in Africa? Qian Yuman looked around to make sure that the person had disappeared, and then stood up from the ground. However, another figure blocked him in front of him. Qi Lilii. Qian Yuman raised her head and immediately recognized the person in front of her as Lisa, one of Tang Feishan's admirers. The only reason I know her is because of my photographic memory. At the dinner party yesterday, this woman once came up to talk to Tang Feishan. Her disgusting eyes were completely unconcealed. It was difficult for her to know that she liked Tang Feishan. Qian Yuman had a cold expression on her face. She didn't even look at her and just pretended to be cold as she passed by. Kylie Lisa blocked Qian Yuman again. Why are you pretending to be noble? I feel sick when I see your face. Qian Yuman stopped, glanced at her coldly, and sneered. Fei Chen just likes my beautiful face. I'm afraid that even if you have plastic surgery, it will only make it look different. What do you mean? Lisa became angry instantly. How could Qian Yuman not see that she was deliberately looking for trouble and showed no mercy at all? Even if I'm a noble person, Fei Chen likes me, but even if you're a traitor, he'll still hate me. Lisa was so angry that she reached out and wanted to slap her. Compared to his younger sister, Qian Yuman's skills are like a three-legged cat. The three-legged cat also learned from her younger sister, so it is more than enough to deal with Lisa. Qian Yuman turned slightly to the side and successfully avoided it. The foot stretched out, successfully causing Lisa to trip over her foot. Lisa, who was on the edge of the deck, tripped and fell directly into the sea. Looking at Lisa falling into the sea, Qian Yuman covered her mouth and snickered, turned around and ran away, regardless of Lisa falling into the sea. The movement here will attract others' attention. As for how Lisa fell into the sea, no one noticed it at all. Qian Yuman is not afraid that something will happen to her if she falls into the sea. There are countless lifeguards on the sea at this moment, and she can't die even if she wants to. Throughout the whole day, Qian Yuman was hiding and having fun. She didn't meet anyone she knew. She couldn't help but praise her wit. The party on the sea at night was still not peaceful. Everyone got on the cruise ship to continue having fun. Countless men and women on the deck kept twisting their bodies to the dynamic music. Hungry Qian Yuman covered her growling belly, changed into beautiful clothes and went to look for food. Today she decided to try French cuisine. She had just wandered to the door when a figure jumped out from behind and rushed towards her. With quick eyes and quick hands, Qian Yuman moved to the side and successfully avoided Tang Yuz's big hug. Speak well and don't be impulsive. Qian Yuman held her arms, put one hand against Tang Yuz and gave him a warm hug, frowning and glaring at him. This girl is so enthusiastic. Tang Yuz pursed his lips unhappily and blinked at her with his big, pitiful eyes. Recommend you devil's sweetheart, schoolgirl, don't bite me. Begging for recommendation votes. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 342. Chapter 342 Forced Kiss 3. Is there anything more tragic than being unable to hold my wife? I've been looking for you all day today, where are you? In the ravine, Qian Yuman slowly walked into the restaurant. He had just stepped in when a call came. Manman Wang Tiankai was waiting for the meal to be served in the restaurant. When he saw a familiar figure at the door, he waved and called happily. When Qian Yuman saw Wang Tiankai, she happily walked over and said hello cheerfully. "Brother Wang, what a coincidence." Tang Yuj, who was behind Qian Yuman, frowned displeased when he heard Qian Yuman's name. His displeased eyes were directed at Wang Tiankai. It was obvious that she was dissatisfied with Wang Tiankai's name. Qian Yuman, who had her back to Tang Yuj, did not see that he was unhappy, and still greeted Wang Tiankai happily. "Let's sit down and eat together." "Okay," Qian Yuman nodded and sat down with a smile. Tang Yuj just pulled out the chair and sat next to her without saying hello. Tang Yuj kept staring at Wang Tiankai opposite. "Brother Wang, did you have fun today? I didn't even see you playing at the sea. Unfortunately, I'm pregnant and can't go there." Qian Yuman looked at Tang Yuj with some resentment. At this moment, his expression on his face had returned to normal. There was no trace of emotion, and his signature lazy and evil smile hung on the corner of his mouth. "I went to bed late last night and couldn't get up in the morning. In addition, the sea breeze last night was a bit long and my head felt a little heavy. I just rested in the room until just now. I was really hungry, so I came out to find something to eat." "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Qian Yuman asked with concern. She raised her hand to test the temperature of his forehead like she did when she was a child. She thought of the vinegar bucket next to her and retracted her hand. "I've had a day's rest and I'm fine now." Qian Yuman couldn't help but muttered a few words, asking him to take good care of himself. The waiter handed the menus to Qian Yuman and Tang Yuj respectively. They had just ordered their meals, and the appetizers ordered by Wang Tiankai were served. Qian Yuman's eyes instantly lit up. She was very hungry now, and her stomach growled pitifully when she thought it would be a while before the appetizers were served. "She is really hungry." Her stomach growled, instantly making the atmosphere a little awkward. Qian Yuman smiled and touched her belly. "Sorry, my little baby is hungry." "Poor baby, before you were born, your mother was pushing embarrassing things onto you." Wang Tiankai laughed and pushed his appetizer in front of Qian Yuman. "I'm not hungry now, you can eat first." "Pregnant women can't be hungry." Tang Yuj frowned and reached out to bring Qian Yuman's appetizer in front of him. "I'll eat it." "There's something in your appetizer that my wife can't eat." Qian Yuman took a glance and realized that there were indeed foods that needed to be avoided, but it was okay to eat a little, but not too much. Not long after the main course was served, Wang Tiankai asked the waiter to bring it to Qian Yuman. Tang Yuj reached out his hand again, but Qian Yuman slapped it away hard and stared at him fiercely. "That's it? Didn't you realize that he was very hungry after kissing his wife? Need some energy? She actually wants to the food, so she can't be wronged even if she's jealous. Is it okay to wait until she is full?" Tang Yuj turned his head arrogantly and chose to stay out of sight. A little appetizer is not enough for Qian Yuman to fill her teeth. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 343. Chapter 343 Forced Kiss 4. Mr. Tang is very happy to marry such an outstanding woman as Man Wang Tiankai spoke to Tang Yuj. Tang Yuj glanced at him. What did he want to express? Lucky. Wang Tiankai kept his eyes on Qian Yuman, watching her eating deliciously without even raising her head. "You don't know, when I was little, Aunt Qian would always tease Manman about marrying brother Wang in the future. I didn't expect." Qian Yuman finally raised her head and interrupted awkwardly when she heard Wang Tiankai talking about her childhood. "When I was little, my mother loved to do random things." Tang Yuj deeply forgot about Yang Tiankai and did not interrupt to speak. The expression on his face remained unchanged, but his eyes became darker and darker. There is a saying that what you are afraid of will come to you. Lili, a surprised voice sounded at the door. Tang Feishan saw Chi Lili, who had been looking for him all day, sitting at the dining table. Sitting on the dining table were his eldest brother Tang Yuj and his fiancée's childhood sweetheart Wang Tiankai. Hearing Tang Fei's deep voice, Qian Yuman paused while eating, and slowly turned her head to look at the door. The moment she turned her head, the smile on her face disappeared, her cold aura was revealed, and she turned into a cold and domineering Chi Lili. The expression on her face changed to that of Chi Lili, but her heart was different. She opened the barrage again, complaining that she and the cruise ship were poisonous, and asked Tang Yuj to sell the cruise ship when she got back. The baby is so angry. Qian Yuman avoided them during the day and gathered at a table at night. If there was mahjong in front of them, they would gather enough people to play mahjong. A few minutes later, the four people gathered at a table. Tang Yuj was rushed to sit next to Wang Tiankai, and Tang Feishan sat next to Qian Yuman. The other three people's dishes were not served on the table, so the three of them stared at Qian Yuman as she ate in a tacit understanding, which made her feel a little embarrassed. Are they playing with her? I don't even let her eat at a happy pace. Tang Feishan's eyes shifted to his eldest brother. Brother, I didn't expect you to be on the ship. Why haven't I seen you or heard of you before? Tang Yuj's eyes fell on Qian Yuman. It was not because he wanted to keep a low profile. Tang Yuj, who never kept a low profile wherever he went, did so for the first time this time. Because Qian Yuman cared about Tang Feishan, she wanted to keep a certain distance from him, so if she wanted to follow Qian Yuman, she had to keep a low profile. I came with Xiao Tian and the others. Tang Feishan immediately remembered Lan Tianlu and Ji Fan. He knew that Tang Yuj knew them and had a good relationship with them. Everyone's dinner was served one after another. Wang Tiankai joked with Qian Yuman from time to time, and occasionally talked about things from his childhood. Qian Yuman almost couldn't help laughing several times, but she still held it in. Tang Feishan looked at his fiancée and Wang Tiankai several times. The expression on his face became more and more serious, but he didn't say much. Tang Yuj, whose face was also unhappy, showed it directly on his face without covering it up. He picked up a piece of broccoli that Qian Yuman loved to eat, and naturally picked it up to put it in Qian Yuman's bowl. When the broccoli was about to be put into her bowl, the air became stiff, and Tang Yuj's hand also froze. Qian Yuman's expression also froze. All four pairs of eyes were staring at Tang Yuj's fork, and the atmosphere became increasingly awkward. Tang Yuj glanced at his wife's ugly face, quickly turned the fork sharply, and threw the broccoli into Wang Tian's prayer plate. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 344. Chapter 344 Forced Kiss 5. Eating more broccoli can relieve your cough and open your throat. I think your voice is hoarse even if you have a cold. As he said this, Tang Yuj moved all the broccoli on his plate to Wang Tian's prayer plate. Wang Tian hoped that the food he hated would be delivered to the plate one by one. He glanced at Qian Yuman who was staring at him, turned around and thanked him with a smile. Thank you, Mr. Tang. He picked up one and put it in his mouth to chew, and said with a smile. This onion is very delicious. It can refresh you after eating it. Don't be so confused that you almost do something wrong. Qian Yuman's expression was awkward because she was trying hard to hold back the smile in her chest. The scene is really funny. Let's see the two of them meet for the second time. Two grown men actually started exchanging food. It was hilarious no matter how you looked at it. They just had to feed each other vegetables. If you really do this, it will definitely attract the attention of countless people. Now that the two grown men are exchanging food, they have already attracted several eyebrows. Looking at it, it is really ambiguous and funny. Mr. Tang deserves it. He needs Brother Wang's help to make up for the evil he has done. What a coincidence, Wang Tiankai happened to pick Tang Yu's most hated food. Seeing how hard he was swallowing onions, she really wanted to go to the toilet and laugh wildly. Wang Tiankai finally gave up eating broccoli and stared at Jian Yuman, who was eating the second plate of staple food. He felt an unhappy look and noticed Tang Fei's unkind eyes and Tang Yu's unhappy eyes. Jian Yuman also noticed it and felt that they were about to fight. Of course she knew that they would not fight and would only glare at each other. But the atmosphere was really awkward. She just felt the urge to urinate and ran to the toilet. Sitting on the toilet seat, Jian Yuman looked at the sky speechlessly. You can be a little more chaotic. You can really be a little more chaotic. Jian Yuman looked to the sky to communicate with God. When Jian Yuman came out of the toilet, there was a person blocking the door. That person was Wang Tiankai, with his hands behind his back. I have something to tell you. Say it later, I still have dinner. Jian Yuman felt like running away, and she judged that it was best to stay away from him at this moment. Steps moved to the side, ready to run away at any time. She was not full yet and wanted to go back and continue eating. It was too embarrassing to eat today. She was not a fool, and it was not that she couldn't see why the atmosphere was awkward. The problem was all Wang Tiankai's fault. His gaze was too obvious, with aggression, as if she was his prey. Before, Wang Tiankai could simply get along with her, and talking about things from his childhood would not make her feel too abrupt. I don't know why today, but since the beginning of the chat, he always looked at her. Even if she gave her an angry look, he remained unmoved. Tang Yuj didn't express much, he was taciturn, and occasionally gave Wang Tiankai a few unhappy looks. But Tang Feishan was different. From the dance last night to dinner today, his intentions were too obvious, and his usual smile remained stiff. It was a good meal, but it was crowded by 3 grown men. Only Jian Yuman ate 2 portions heartlessly, but the 3 men didn't take more than a few bites, and they were all competing secretly. Jian Yuman walked around him and walked to the dining table, not wanting to wait too long. However, Wang Tiankai didn't want her to leave and directly reached out to hold him. Don't go too far. Tang Yu's displeased voice came. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 345. Chapter 345 Being Forced to Kiss 6. He directly stretched out his hand to grab Wang Tiankai's hand, took Jian Yuman's other hand and pulled him into his arms. Let go. Tang Yuj stared at Jian Yuman's hand, the expression on his face became increasingly gloomy and uglier. Wang Tiankai was very relaxed and refused directly. I don't. She is my woman, please pay attention to your behavior. Tang Yuj tried to pull Jian Yuman into his arms with slight force, but it hurt Jian Yuman. It hurts. Jian Yuman's expression was ugly and uncomfortable. You all let me go. Jian Yuman's face darkened, and anger kept rising in her heart. What were they doing? Her hands were held by different men, and they were held so tightly that she could not pull them back. If they were pulled to one side and forced on each other, would she be torn apart? Tang Yuj immediately let go of her hand and expressed concern. Are you okay? Fine. How could it be okay? I was almost torn apart by you. Tang Yuj let go, giving Wang Tiankai a chance to succeed. He reached out and gently pulled Jian Yuman into his arms. Things happened so suddenly that no one had time to react. Wang Tiankai smiled evilly, held Jian Yuman's face in his hands, and kissed her red lips heavily. It happened so suddenly that Tang Yuj didn't have time to react, and Jian Yuman was even less able to react in time. She only felt that her eyes went dark and a shadow enveloped her, and she was kissed by Wang Tiankai. Jian Yuman was dumbfounded for a second and felt the coolness on her lips. She was actually kissed by Brother Wang. Although she had forcefully kissed him when she was a child, that was when she was a child. And when she was kissed in front of Tang Yuj. Oh my god. What are you doing? And in front of her husband, it was obviously intentional. Qian Yuman's anger rose instantly. She had not been angry for a long time, so she pushed him away hard, raised her hand and slapped him. The force of his hand was not light at all, red palm prints appeared on his face instantly, and his body was shaking violently because of the anger of his kiss. Wang Tiankai was beaten. Not only was he not angry, but he covered his face with a proud smile. He opened his mouth to reveal a dozen teeth and added slowly. That's what I want to tell you. Say your sister, does this mean? This is obviously a combination of hands, feet, and mouth. She was really angry, very angry. Although she often imagined knocking down all the handsome men in the world, it was just a matter of lustful thoughts. None of that means anything. It doesn't mean that she is a casual woman who can be bold enough to have intimate behaviors with other men in front of her husband. When did Wang brother, who was like in her mind, despise her so much? He was humiliating her, and he was doing it in front of Tang Yuj, her husband. If she was not married, she could still think that he was fighting for her affection, but when she was married, the meaning was completely different. She could not have any other entanglements with other men. His pursuit would only make her uncomfortable. His forced kiss, in her opinion, was belittling her and treating her as a casual woman. Before Qian Yuman's slap was over, Tang Yuj strode forward, raised his hand, punched Wang Tiankai in the face, and kicked him in the stomach. But this kick was not as successful as a fist to the face, and he dodged it nimbly. Tang Yuj didn't give up. He punched continuously, hitting vital parts with every blow. He almost couldn't help but draw his gun and confront him. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 346. Chapter 346 Forced Kiss 7. Do you have to do this? Tang Yuj scolded angrily, attacking quickly with his hands and feet. Wang Tiankai struggled to cope with Tang Yuj's fists and kicks, but his face after being hit was still smiling, and he was smiling very happily. At the same time, this picture also fell in the eyes of Tang Feishan, who came to find Qian Yuman. He saw his fiancée being held in her arms by her childhood sweetheart and kissing him passionately in public. The anger in Tang Feishan's chest continued to rise, but he didn't punch Wang Tiankai in the face angrily like Tang Yuj did. Instead, he turned around and left expressionlessly, disappearing silently into the restaurant. It's just that the expression on that face is extremely disgusting, the fists are clenched, and the body is trembling. Qian Yuman looked at the two people who started fighting after a disagreement, and then looked at the crowd gradually gathering around them. Ignore them and just run away. If they want to fight, let them fight. She doesn't want to see anyone now. Qian Yuman left the chaos here and looked around, but did not see Tang Feishan. There was such a big movement over there, it was impossible for him not to notice it. Oops, maybe Tang Feishan saw the picture just now. Qian Yuman was so angry that she almost fainted. Looking at the two men who were fighting so happily, she almost wanted to throw them into the sea. She was so angry that now she could only pray that Tang Feishan didn't see anything, otherwise instead of helping her sister, she would harm her. If she ruined her sister's marriage, she would have no choice but to go to her sister to apologize. Had she known that she would have turned around and ran away when she met Tang Yuj and Wang Tiankai, she would not have caused this incident now and left her wondering how to deal with it. Qian Yuman ran a few steps and couldn't find Tang Feishan. She was very upset and ran back to her room to find her cell phone. She used her cell phone to call Tang Feishan and test him. When she came to the door of the room, she saw Tang Yuj's face was ashen, and there was color on the corner of his mouth, which was obviously left over from the fight between Wang Tiankai just now. Wife, how could you leave me and run away? Qian Yuman glared at Tang Yuj angrily, stretched out her hand and pushed him away from her face. Go away. Tang Yuj looked unhappy and sounded aggrieved. Why are you being mean? I am also very wronged. My wife was kissed by another man. In the end, my wife yelled at me. Qian Yuman was in no mood to argue with him. All she could think about was that Tang Feishan might have seen the scene just now. She quickly swiped her card to enter. Tang Yuj followed closely and closed it consciously. Qian Yuman got the mobile phone placed by the bedside, looked for Tang Feishan's phone number, and prepared to call him. Behind her, the aggrieved baby who had been left out hugged her from behind, turned her head, stretched out his head and kissed her red lips. The kiss was urgent and overbearing, making Qian Yuman's lips hurt. She reached out several times to push him away, but ultimately failed. Tang Yuj didn't care, he had to kiss away the breath of other men on her lips, so the kiss was not as gentle as before, with a domineering and predatory nature, and he kept tossing and turning. After kissing each other, they fell down on the soft bed. They didn't let go of Qian Yuman until she could hardly breathe. Looking at her red and swollen lips, Tang Yuj nodded with great satisfaction. Finally, I no longer smell like that man. Qian Yuman sat up, put her clothes in order, stretched out her hand to push him hard, pointed at him and cursed angrily. You jealous person, why didn't you get kissed? Look at it. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 347. Chapter 347 Forced Kiss 8. Pointing to her red, swollen, and sore lips, is this a punishment for her? And you and Wang Tiankai, you two are bastards. You are actually jealous in the restaurant. Don't you know how to look at the occasion? Do you know that Fei Shen is also there? Now Fei Shen doesn't even know where he has gone, no. I don't know if he saw what happened just now. If this is a misunderstanding, how can I explain it to Lei Lei? As a result, this kissed her wildly when he saw her, which delayed her from calling Fei Shen. Tang Yuj puffed out his cheeks in grievance and crossed his hands on his chest. Blame it on me. Blame it on me. Yes, Qian Yuman raised her leg and kicked him angrily. He was still arrogant in front of her. She blamed him. She blamed him for getting involved. She told him not to appear in front of her these days, but she couldn't bear it. Live. Qian Yuman ignored him and took out his mobile phone to make a call to Tang Feishan. The call was connected not long after. Lili, are you looking for me? Tang Feishan's tone was calm, no different from usual. Where are you? I just came out of the toilet and didn't see you. It's okay. Hong Yang just called me and told me that he wanted to practice fencing with me. I saw that you hadn't come out of the toilet for a long time, so I rushed over first, Tang Feishan explained calmly. What's wrong? Do you have anything to do with me? Qian Yuman breathed a sigh of relief, and her tone became much more relaxed. It's okay, you can practice fencing. I will join you after I give birth. Okay, if I lose today, you will avenge me in the future and teach me a lesson, Tang Feishan said with a chuckle. Qian Yuman let out a long sigh of relief after hanging up the phone. She felt a little more relieved when she heard Tang Fei's relaxed tone on the phone. However, I still thought about whether Tang Feishan really didn't see it. Of course I hope he didn't see it, otherwise my sister would be in trouble. Although Tang Feishan's tone was relaxed, she was still a little worried. No, she still had to go to the fencing room to take a look to make sure he really didn't see him, and whether he lied and just found an excuse to leave. Qian Yuman quickly got out of bed and went out to find Tang Feishan. Tang Yuj followed helplessly. He also knew that things were troublesome and had to suppress his discomfort. He didn't dare to be jealous anymore. The fencing room is on the second floor. There are many sports areas on the second floor, including fencing, basketball, tennis, and other sports. Qian Yuman has been on the ship for 2 days, and this is her first time here. Walking into the fencing room, there were quite a few people inside. There were 4 pairs of people dueling. Their faces were covered with masks when they were fencing, so they couldn't see their faces at all. She could only rely on guessing about Tang Feishan's height and body shape, then came to the second area, pretending to sit calmly and observe. Qian Yuman's arrival naturally attracted the attention of many people, and some even stopped to look at her. Among them, Qian Yuman suspected that they were Tang Feishan and Xia Hongyang. Xia Hongyang took off the mask from his face, held it around his waist, and shouted with a smile. "Master Lei." Tang Feishan, who had his back to Qian Yuman, heard his friend calling, turned around to face her, and slowly took off the protective gear on his face. "Lili, why are you here?" Tang Fei asked with a faint smile, walking towards him. Xia Hongyang had already run over, there was even sweat on his face, and he said with a smile. "Master Lei, do you want to come up and play? Although I know I will definitely lose, I haven't fought with Master Lei for a long time." Tang Feishan walked up to his friend and tapped him lightly with the mask in his hand. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 348. Chapter 348 Mr. Tang is in danger 1. Tang Feishan walked up to his friend and tapped him lightly with the mask in his hand. "Thank you for thinking that Lili still has my son in her belly, and you still want to fight her." Xia Hongyang patted his head. "Ha ha ha, I forgot that Master Lei is going to be a mother soon. It seems that if I want to fight Master Lei, I have to wait until my fat nephew is born. Even if I fight against Lili, I will still be the one who gets killed instantly." Tang Feishan chuckled and teased, which immediately caused Xia Hongyang to complain. How could he tell the truth? A vague smile appeared on Qian Yuman's lips, and she was already laughing in her heart. Let's not talk about whether she is pregnant or not. Even if she is not pregnant, she will not play because she simply doesn't know how to do it, and it would be embarrassing to play. However, seeing how they were chatting and laughing, I was worried at first that Tang Feishan had seen the chaotic situation just now, but now looking at his appearance, he probably didn't. Otherwise, there would be no chatting and laughing. When a normal man finds out, he will definitely get jealous and start to get angry, and go directly to Wang Tiankai to settle the score. Qian Yuman's heart that was hanging in the air was slightly relieved. "Fei Shen, do you want to have a fight with me?" My eldest brother, Tang Yuj, who had been standing outside for a while, stepped in. Qian Yuman couldn't help but glance at him a few times. Tang Feishan still had a faint smile on his face, and slowly turned back to look at Tang Yuj, but there was a fleeting haze under his eyes. "Okay." Tang Yuj put on his fencing uniform and protective gear and stood on the fencing field. Qian Yuman's eyes lit up when she saw Tang Yuj wearing a handsome white fencing uniform. So hot. Tang Yuj's hair was a bit long to begin with, but it was combed back. His handsome face looked even more noble after putting on his fencing uniform. He held a protective mask in one hand and a fencing sword in the other. Tang Feishan re-entered the court. Both sides put on protective masks, assumed stabbing postures, and began the brotherly duel. This was the first time Qian Yuman knew that Tang Yuj knew how to fencing, and she couldn't help but stare at him. The last time she saw a fencing match was 5 or 6 years ago, and it was because of her sister Qi Lili's match. The fierce PK showdown began. Qian Yuman clenched her fists excitedly as she watched them fight. It was obviously not the first time that the two brothers had fought. They could always predict where the other would attack next. Both of them had good skills, so the fight here attracted several people to watch. The fight was so fierce that Qian Yuman couldn't help but stand up and watch. Because her eyes were always glued to Tang Yuj, She also noticed the figure that suddenly approached Tang Yuj. During the intermission, Tang Yuj took off the protective mask on his head and took a breath. Suddenly there was a stranger in fencing uniform behind him, and the fencing sword in his hand suddenly aimed at Tang Yuj's head. Qian Yuman was the first to react. With her heart in her throat, she quickly shouted at the top of her lungs. "Mr. Tang, be careful behind you." The moment Qian Yuman finished shouting these words, Tang Yuj suddenly turned around, and the fencing sword in his hand accurately blocked the attacker's sword. Qian Yuman's shout turned countless eyes around him to Tang Yuj, including Tang Feishan. Before Tang Feishan took off his protective mask, he saw someone attacking Tang Yuj, and the sword in his hand quickly stabbed the attacker. The sword rotated on the opponent's sword and successfully knocked the opponent's sword to the ground. There will be a live video broadcast today, don't forget, at 9 p.m., there will be prizes, including a physical collector's edition of Xiao Manman's story in San Francisco, recommendation tickets la 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 la. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 349. Chapter 349 Mr. Tang is in danger too. Tang Yuj directly raised his leg and kicked the opponent to the ground. The fencing sword in his hand stabbed the opponent's weak ribs mercilessly. Even though the opponent was wearing fencing uniform, stabbing his weak ribs hard still made the opponent unable to stand up in pain. Everything happened so fast, less than a minute. When the sneak attacker in fencing uniforms made his move, several people in fencing uniforms surrounded Tang Yuj. They attacked Tang Yuj at the same time in just 1 second. Tang Feishan also suffered and became the target of the attack. When Tang Yuj was in crisis, several men in black suits suddenly appeared from around him and quickly surrounded Tang Yuj, protecting him tightly in the middle. "Protect my wife," Tang Yuj quickly ordered. 2 of the men in black rushed towards Qian Yuman quickly, but they were too late. When Qian Yuman shouted to be careful, she was stared at. One of them quickly approached her. The other person also had a gun in his hand, which was pointed directly at Qian Yuman's head. "Don't even move," the man who threatened Qian Yuman shouted. Things happened so suddenly that no one had time to react. Upon discovering that someone was carrying a gun, the other distinguished guests on the boat were too frightened to move, staring at Qian Yuman who was being held hostage. Qian Yuman faced life and death for the first time, saw a gun for the first time, and this first time, the gun was pointed at her head. Her face turned pale with fright, and she looked at Tang Yuj in fear, and was even too scared to speak. "That's a gun. If the gun goes off, you'll be killed, 2 will be killed, and 1 will die." At this moment, Tang Yuj's face was dark, and he held the fencing sword tightly in his hand. His bloodthirsty eyes were staring at the gangster who was holding a gun against Qian Yuman, and his whole body exuded a cold and terrifying aura. "Let her go, or I will make you die miserably," Tang Yuj threatened word for word, his eyes wanting to kill the person in front of him. The gangster was indeed intimidated by Tang Yuj's terrifying momentum, and the hand holding the gun was trembling slightly. "If you want to let her go, I can exchange it with you." Tang Feishan's face turned pale with fright, and he stepped forward and pointed at himself. "I am the fiancé of the woman in your hand, let me exchange it." The gangster glanced at Tang Feishan and sneered. "Second young master of the Tang family, although your life is also valuable, there is no comparison with Mr. Tang of the Emgrand Group." Tang Fei was stunned for a second by the gangster's words. All the distinguished guests around him looked at Tang Yuj in disbelief. Mr. Tang from Emgrand Group, the eldest son of the Tang dynasty group, is Mr. Tang from the Emgrand Group. There were rumors that Mr. Tang would come to this banquet, but he did not appear. He only saw President Murong yet. He thought it was a rumor, which made countless people who wanted to get close to Mr. Tang in vain. They did not expect that Mr. Tang was the Tang dynasty. Tang Yuge, the eldest son of the group. Not only the passers-by were shocked, but also Tang Feishan. He also found it hard to believe that the Mr. Tang he wanted to make friends with this time was his half-brother. Why don't the Tang family know? Don't hurt her, I'll make an exchange with you. Tang Yuge dropped the fencing sword in his hand and walked forward quickly. The bodyguard beside him immediately shouted, trying to stop him from exchanging Jian Yuman. Mr. Tang, you absolutely must not do this. Tang Yuge stopped and shouted angrily at his men. Back off. Although the bodyguards did not want him to be in danger, they did not dare to disobey his orders and could only take a step back. Their guns were pointed at the gangsters, ready to fight them at any time. Jian Yuman shook her head at Tang Yuge. These people were obviously going after Mr. Tang. If the two of them were swapped, he would definitely be killed or even die. She didn't want her child to be born without a father. However, is it useful for her to refuse? She was simply passive. Even if she didn't change, she would be the one who might die in the end. Tang Yuge slowly approached Jian Yuman. The moment Jian Yuman was pushed away, Tang Yuge was caught by the other party and the hostage exchange was successful. She watched helplessly as Tang Yuge was taken away by the gangsters. At 9 p.m. in the Yubo video live broadcast room, I'm waiting for you to come to bed. Search my pen name to find me. This is the last free chapter. Starting from tomorrow, Your Majesty will charge for it. After charging, His Majesty will update 6-10 chapters every day, and at least there will be more than 8 chapters in the next 10 days. Isn't it weird? Your Majesty is also Alexander, but as a full-time writer who relies on this for a living, Your Majesty finally has meat to eat after 3 months and 2 days for free. I'm so poor these days, I hope my concubines can come and support me tomorrow. If you subscribe well, there will be more updates tomorrow. Even though it's on the shelves, don't stop voting for recommendations. Mwah. Tomorrow we will update 50 chapters in one go. You read that right, it's 50 chapters. Are your concubines' money ready? Correct. Don't forget to come to Yubo in the evening to watch His Majesty's live video broadcast. There will also be many small gifts and big red envelopes. Even if you can't watch it, please come to the comment area to answer questions and win prizes. Also, I would like to decline readers who want to scold me and why I charge a fee. I have long said in various ways that this book will be charged after more than 300 chapters, and finally 350 chapters were free. It doesn't matter if you don't have money, grab more red envelopes during the Chinese New Year. Don't be stingy if you have money, subscribe more, I love you, okay. Your Majesty will continue to be handsome. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 350. Chapter 350 Bloody Scene 1. Chapter 350 Bloody Scene 1. Mr. Tang Jian Yuman shouted as she watched Tang Yuge being taken away, and chased him for a few steps. However, those people were not polite to her at all and kicked Jian Yuman with their legs. Tang Yuge spoke coldly. If I were you, I wouldn't touch her at all. The gangster who was about to kick Jian Yuman stopped because of his words. Apparently frightened by his words, he quickly retracted his kick and pointed the gun in his hand at Tang Yuge. Humph, be arrogant now. You will be buried in the sea later. Buried in the sea. After Jian Yuman heard this, her eyes darkened and she almost lost her balance. Fortunately, Tang Feishan on the side supported her. Jian Yuman's face was as pale as snow, and she kept blaming herself for being careless, why she was so useless and was taken advantage of by these gangsters. What to do? What to do? Jian Yuman knew that now was not the time to be afraid. She wanted to rescue Mr. Tang from the gangsters. She could not let the child live without a father. She gradually calmed down, quickly took out her mobile phone from her pocket, and dialed Murong. Because Murong is the current top leader of the ship, and there are many security personnel on the ship, it is best to ask him for help. As soon as the call was connected, she tried to steady her voice to prevent it from shaking so much that she could not hear what she was saying. Murong, gangsters just appeared on the boat, and Mr. Tang was captured. Where are you now? I'll rush there right away, Murong said solemnly. Tang Yuj was taken away by a small boat. Qian Yuman watched helplessly as he was taken away. Tang Yuj's bodyguards and Tang Feishan split into two groups and chased him out in a speedboat equipped with the cruise ship. Murong also learned the news came over within 3 minutes. When Murong rushed over, Ji Fan was with him, and several people were following behind them. Sister-in-law, what happened? He walked up to Qian Yuman and quickly asked what happened. Qian Yuman briefly told what happened just now, how Tang Yuj was arrested, and what happened after the bodyguards chased him out. Murong and Ji Fan both had solemn expressions. Murong covered his head with a headache and turned around to talk to Ji Fan. Contact Mr. Lan and ask him to send some of the people he sent to find Xiaoling. Okay, I'll make arrangements immediately. Ji Fan turned and left. Qian Yuman looked at Murong in confusion. Murong, what do you mean? Is Xiaoling missing? Murong sighed deeply and slowly recounted what had just happened. Just before Mr. Tang's accident, Mr. Ian's fiancée Xiaoling disappeared. Mr. Lan turned the entire cruise ship over in a hurry and couldn't find anyone. So he sent 70 people to search and rescue at sea. There are not many bodyguards on the ship now. It will give criminals an opportunity to sneak in. Qian Yuman's face turned even paler. Something happened to Xiaoling. What about the people sent to rescue Mr. Tang? Although there are few people on the other side, they all have guns in their hands. It may not be easy to rescue Mr. Tang who was taken away. Murong, I want to go to the sea to find him. Qian Yuman reached out and grabbed Murong and requested. Murong shook his head decisively and refused. No, you are pregnant and it is not suitable to go to the sea at night to find someone. If something happens to you and Mr. Tang comes back, how will I explain to him? Qian Yuman shook her head quickly and gently touched her lower abdomen with a firm attitude. I must find him. He exchanged hostages with the gangsters because of me. If anything happens to him. Thank you, my dear concubines, for supporting me. Moi. There are countless chapter names in the back. There are titles in the content of the article. Read according to the titles in the content. The editor will go to work tomorrow and will also change the titles. I have subscribed to the confusion before. Delete the article on the bookshelf, delete the cache, read it again, and order. That's right. End of this chapter.